Welcome to Jags Drive Time with Ashlyn Sullivan, John Oehser, and Brian Sexton. Jags Drive Time starts right now.
Go, man. Get in there, boy.
James Robinson, the running back, play fake. Trevor looking downfield, fires deep downfield. That ball's going to be caught. Marvin Jones Jr., first down.
Woo! Let's go.
Running back James Robinson mic'd up against the Houston Texans. You can check out that full episode on Jaguars.com. Welcome into Jaguars Drive Time on a Wednesday morning. Ashlyn, Brian, and John here with you as we get ready for the next game for the Jaguars this Sunday against the Colts on the road. And a lot to talk about as we get ready for that game. But I bring in Brian and John now. And it seems to be that maybe the feeling of the loss has moved past. And Monday was, I don't want to say the sulking day, but you have to address that terrible game on Sunday. And here's the day. But yeah, we attempt to move on and take a step forward.
I haven't seen anybody yet this morning, so I'm not sure if they have, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I will in the next hour as we're walking around the hallways, but I think that one's going to sting a little bit more. I think it's one that's going to hang with them a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the team and the coaches, especially the veterans, will move on because that's what the NFL is. I think, honestly, it will linger for fans and observers, as I've written several times since that game. I believe that now, in order to get fans feeling like they felt in September, you've got to win a couple.
Well, you're totally
You've got to
right.
make them believe again. I think you've got to win more than Sunday, but you got to start Sunday.
I was filling up with gas the other day, and a guy, he said, the thing is, I was so ready to get on board with this. Mm-hmm. I was so ready to believe that's what it is. Yep. And that was what it wasn't that it was that they lost. It was how they lost. It was that he was expecting a good game from a team that he had seen play well the last couple of weeks, and they didn't, and he was let down. And that was the part that's the part that stings as far as I'm concerned, is that we've been talking about a team that's ready to take that next step, maybe had taken that next step. It's tough to believe this morning. It's tough to believe that they're there.
Now, there is an element that's what the NFL is. Sometimes even good teams do what they did Sunday. But since this team hasn't been good since the 60s, it's hard. Well, I mean, from fans' perspective, that's what it feels like. So the fact that they don't get that benefit of the doubt for one bad game when you've had 150 bad games over the last decade.
There's an aftertaste from the last couple of years.
So now you've got to prove it double to a fan base that wants to believe.
Mm-hmm. It's almost that feeling of too good to be true. And truthfully, that game against the Chargers when everyone's flying back home happy, there were fans that said, this is awesome, but is this for real? And I think Sunday might have proved, okay, maybe it wasn't for real, and maybe they're not consistent yet. And yeah, that stinks. It's almost like a breakup. It's like, you thought this was it, and this isn't it, and now we got to move back.
Ashlyn?
No, I'm really thinking about it lately.
All right, well, let's we'll talk after the show.
Okay, thanks for the advice, fellas. All right, let's get into big things. Big thing one is give him time. The freak out is here for quarterback Trevor Lawrence, and all the fans' perspective saying he's not ready and he's not the franchise quarterback. Well, he played lights out week 2 and week 3. Hasn't played good the last couple of weeks like most young quarterbacks. Coach Peterson said, take a breath. He'll get there.
Look at Jalen Hurts. Great example last year. He's got a new head coach. He's got a new coordinator. Yes, they made the postseason, and he probably went through some growing pains last year. Now, second season, the same head coach, same coordinator, play caller, the whole thing. Add some more pieces around it. Have consistency. Things thrive. You look at the Bengals, young quarterback, things thrive. And you look at the Chargers. You can take a young quarterback, put the pieces around. There's consistency, things thrive. So it's a model, for success in this league. And it's just where we are at the time. But I know that with time, we'll be there, with those teams.
And I interrupted Schlenn's flow a little bit here, but I think it's important to note, Brian, that's not the first time he's said this.
No.
He knew this was coming. He knows young quarterbacks. He knew Trevor Lawrence. That's probably the third or fourth time publicly that he's hit that theme with Trevor. He brought it back out this time, but let's not, I had fans saying, well, he's just saying that. This is the process that he knew was coming. And so I believe that Doug Peterson knows where the growth will be.
Yeah, so go back to the week after the Commanders' loss. And I started a question to him on Friday. I said, do we all have too great expectations? He started nodding before I even said for Trevor Lawrence.
He said, chill
right?
out. Yeah.
He knew. He knew exactly where it was going. So, and John, he and I have had that conversation. He knew coming into this year that he was going to have to tamp those down.
Mm-hmm.
That this was a kid that, even though he had incredible upward potential, had so far to go based on what happened last year and just the normal growth curve for quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. And that brings us into big thing too, which is wait. Why? I don't want to wait. I want this team to win right now. We saw it weeks 2 and week 3. Why can't they keep it up? Well, we just talked about that young quarterback and this young team, this young roster. This is going to be an up and down season, so buckle up.
Do I think we can, have an opportunity this year to take advantage of some situations and get better as a team? I do, and the team believes that, but there's a process here, and a lot of times people nobody wants to wait anymore. There's always, it's now, and I get that. I mean, it's a win now mentality, and it's our job to try to speed that up the best we can, through practice, through prep, and just through teaching.
And finally, big thing 3 is respond. Looking forward to Sunday's game against the Colts. This will be a big game as the Jaguars look to sweep the Colts for the first time since 2014. But all eyes will be on the Jaguars and if they can get back to a winning way after 2 very disappointing weeks.
It's all about watching that film, moving on, and growing from that game, because we left a lot of yards out there last game too. So just doing our job and not trying to do too much. Just focus on what you can do and can control. You can control.
And big thing 1 and big thing 2 are similar, and they're both about taking a breath, and they're both about patience. And no one wants to hear that. We don't want to hear that. We don't want to talk about it. But when you talk about this young quarterback, when you talk about this young team, yeah, this is going to take some time. There's going to be some ups and downs. They're going to go beat someone they're not supposed to beat this year. They're going to lose to teams they're supposed to win this year. That just seems to be the theme of the season.
When my mother used to get mad at me when I was a kid, which happened sometimes, Brian.
I can't imagine.
She would go on in our little Maverick over on University Boulevard, and she would talk about, I've talked to you till I'm blue in the face about this. The old term, blue in the face.
I do. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, that's what we all talked about all off season until we were blue in the face, that there were going to be ups. There were going to be downs. The other day was a big down, but there's going to be more of them. Doug said it in the big thing take 2 that nobody wants to be patient anymore. He also, which I get, he also went on after that to talk about we're going to keep working. We're going to have moments, and I'm paraphrasing it not very well, but he was making the point that it doesn't mean you're giving up. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that you don't think you can do things. But the bottom line is, with this quarterback adapting to this offense, he has seen it. He saw it in Philly, 2016, 2017, really, really good. He outlined it. That I think he believes that's how it's going to go, although he can't lay it out with an outline for him every week publicly.
No, I don't doubt. I mean, having talked to him over the last couple of months since he arrived and seen the way that he's done things, I know he knows what he's doing. I've got that. We'll just go back to Sunday for the last time. There are moments where you, and all the efforts of just the front office side, right? Selling tickets, getting people engaged again, where you feel like after, how many times have I been to a Rotary Club where I've said it's coming, right? Mm-hmm. And then it crashes. And you keep thinking, you keep hoping that Sunday was that statement. Here we are, we're climbing now over a team that wasn't as good as they are, right? They're well coached, but the rosters don't compare. And that's the hard part is that there's a lot of people, not just fans, but people on this side of the building who are pushing hard every week to fill the stadium, to sell the advertisements, to make this whole thing work. And when it doesn't, that's where the empty feeling comes in. Even though I know, right, that is part of what this is this year, it's still like you miss an opportunity to pay off all the effort that a lot of people have brought into it. And I know the players don't think that way, and the coaches don't have time to think that way, but I do. And I know what was missed on Sunday.
Yeah, and it's frustrating. It's the most
incredibly frustrating.
And
incredibly
now we talk about it more, it's even more frustrating.
Yeah.
All right, and that is big things as we attempt to look forward to Sunday's game against the Colts. Alara Overton from Colts.com will be joining us up next on Jaguars Drive Time.
Hey Jags fans, Brian Sexton for Dreamfinders Homes. In a complex housing market, do decisions on the biggest purchase of your life stress you out? At Dreamfinders Homes, they can build the home of your dreams in one of their many communities in Northeast Florida. With a mortgage company in-house, they're here to assist you throughout the entire process. Choose from their wide range of single-family homes or townhomes from the 300,000s. Dreamfinders Homes specializes in homes built to fit your lifestyle. Call 904-590-2545 or visit dreamfindershomes.com.
Jags fans, sign up for ESPN Plus to see Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars take on Russell Wilson and the Broncos across the pond at London's Wembley Stadium Sunday, October 30th. ESPN Plus gives you access to nonstop NFL action all season long with live games, originals, highlights, and more. After you sign up, be sure to log into your device with your ESPN account to stream on your TV and other devices. Visit ESPNplus.com/NFL for more details.
Jags fans, Shaquille Griffin of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know you love when we put the QB in his place with a big interception, and now Luray Boyd Peanut Company is making every pick a winning play with the Peanut Pickoff. Every time the Jaguars make a pick, Luray Peanuts is going to donate to youth football initiatives throughout the Southeast, and the Jaguars Foundation will match every dollar. We get one play closer to victory, and our kids get to train for a brighter future. Everyone wins, except for the other team's QB. But hey, that's his problem.
For 9 years, Dreamfinders Homes has been proud to call themselves the official home builder of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Visit dreamfindershomes.com for all available inventory. We are back, Jaguars Drive Time on a Wednesday, getting ready for a Sunday game against the Colts in Indianapolis. And for that, we bring in Lara Overton from Colts.com. Lara, thank you so much for waking up with us.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's always good to be with you guys.
Yes, for sure. We talk a lot, and I have a feeling on Sunday, this game is going to be dramatic. We all know what happened in Jacksonville just a couple weeks ago, and we all know the Jaguars have struggled since then, and the Jaguars players are already talking about when they go to Indy, they're going to get the Colts' best. So what do you expect from Sunday?
Well, both teams are coming off pretty ugly games, right? You had each team in a bit of a defensive battle, so to speak. Neither really saw the type of offensive production last week in week 5 that they were aiming for. The Colts had that gritty victory on Thursday Night Football in Denver, in which it was a field goal fest. Chase McLaughlin, who had just been signed to the Colts roster, active roster last week, he'd been on the practice squad and, back and forth being elevated prior to that, but goes 4 for 4. And you had to win that game on the foot of Chase McLaughlin and on another last-minute stand by your defense. I mean, right now, Stephon Gilmore is looking like the Colts MVP at this point to come up with the game-clinching plays that he has in both the Colts victories so far. And that's one of the things that is difficult about playing so many divisional games so early in the season, like you're seeing for the Colts and for the Jags. Looking at the Colts schedule, it's 5 out of the first 7 against the division. You started this season with back-to-back division games on the road. That was an ugly game week 2 for the Indianapolis Colts down there in Jacksonville. And when I talked to Frank Reich this week, I asked him, what do you see as being things you can draw from in that first meeting? But then also, how is each team a little bit different than what you saw? And he said both teams are better than they were in week 2 because with both situations, for the Jags, you have a new head coach, you have a lot of new pieces there, and for the Colts, an entirely new defense, a lot of new pieces with a new quarterback who's getting used to a new offensive line. You had new additions to the defense along with that new defensive scheme under Gus Bradley. So both teams were still trying to figure things out, and I think for the Colts, they're still trying to figure out a lot of things offensively at this point, have yet to find the stride, the continuity, the production that you were hoping to see thus far when you have Jonathan Taylor and you have Matt Ryan and the pieces that they do surrounding them. So I think that each team is on a mission to establish themselves and find their identity as we get into the second quarter of the season. The Colts were able to have a bit of that mini bye week coming off a win in Denver. So it does seem like that this is a team that is recharged and knows the opportunity that you have, not just this week being at home against Jacksonville, but also going on the road next week and facing Tennessee. You really have to own this quarter of this season if the Indianapolis Colts are going to find a way to be in the conversation to lead the division.
Good morning, Lara. Why is the offensive line of Indianapolis, which had been among the league's best for the last 5 or 6 seasons, why has it not played up to its standard this year?
I think if I had that answer, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair. I'd be sitting in a chair maybe over on the other side of the building, maybe getting a bigger paycheck if I could figure out exactly the offensive line right now. But the one thing is a lot of guys playing, in different positions than they have in the past, where you have Matt Pryor, who shifted over to left tackle. He's more of a natural right tackle, shifted over to be the starting left tackle this season. That was, a new position for him in terms of being the starter at left tackle, because last season it was Eric Fisher. Then you have Danny Pinter, who had been your backup center last year, shifting over to play right guard alongside Braden Smith. You, of course, have your solidified pieces with Ryan Kelly, Quentin Nelson, and Braden Smith. So you did have 3 of your 5 that are on, the top paid offensive line in football. And Quentin, of course, your all-pro everything, who had just signed that extension earlier this season. But one of the things, it's just a lot of shifting and a lot of rotation that you had, those new pieces and new guys who were stepping in. The other thing is at Denver, on Thursday night, you had just 2 walkthroughs, and they decided to mix things up and shift guys around and move guys into different positions to try to see if there would be a different offensive line combination that would provide more protection for Matt Ryan. So I think the biggest component there is you have guys who were thrust into new situations, into new positions, starting on the offensive line than you have had in the past. And you were counting on guys to elevate themselves. And you always think that when you are playing alongside guys like, all-pro, Pro Bowler Quentin Nelson, Pro Bowler Ryan Kelly, and then Braden Smith as well, who is one of the more underappreciated guys for all that he's able to do for this offensive line. It's going to make those new guys who are stepping in better, and they're going to be tasked to elevate their game, but they just have not yet they've not yet been on the same page. And one of the things this offensive line keeps saying is we just have to play more physical up front. And they have faced some really tough defenses. That has been a factor, certainly. I mean, that was one thing that we saw in Jacksonville with the defensive front that you guys have. They have had some tall tasks to begin this season. So they are going to need to find that with a new quarterback sooner rather than later.
This is with apologies to Quentin Nelson, but I think you can make the argument that Jonathan Taylor and Shaq Leonard are the Colts' 2 best players, and they've been out. They've also made runs at the end of the season a lot in recent years. Is there a feeling that if they can just get those 2 back and healthy, that there's a late season run in this team, Lara?
I think that you could certainly make that point. One of the things is for Jonathan Taylor, he didn't miss time until that Thursday game in Jacksonville. You still had him. He had, he did have a great game week 1. They were able to get the ground game going against Houston, but they had not been able to get Jonathan at that type of production that you would anticipate from last year's league-leading rusher. And for Shaq, this was something that you expected. He was coming off of back surgery. He had a lot of recovery, not just from the back and the ankle, but also the nerves that were in there that they had to treat and they had to address when he had that injury. And then he's going to miss more time because you saw the collision that he had with Zaire Franklin at the goal line. It dented his face mask, broke his nose. He's in concussion protocol. So now that's going to be more time. So the Colts have to figure it out without Shaquille Leonard. And you have other weapons. We heard a lot of conversation about how they would utilize Nyheim Hines differently. Look at what you've gotten from your tight ends thus far. The rookie Jelani Woods and Mo Alley Cox have both stepped up big for you as well. One of the tasks that you were going to have to address as an offense, you knew how teams were going to scheme for a guy like Jonathan Taylor. It's obvious what you're going to try to do with Jonathan Taylor. You got to find ways to win and utilize the other pieces that you have, the other guys you have surrounding you. So I do think that, and you saw it in Denver, they did get good production from guys like Deion Jackson and Phillip Lindsay. You hope that this is just a one-game occurrence for Jonathan Taylor. It doesn't seem like it's anything that is going to linger for much longer. The Colts will have their first practice of the week this afternoon, so we hope to get some more clarity on Jonathan Taylor. But now you have a compounding concern because on Thursday Night Football, I don't know if you guys saw it, but Nyheim Hines could barely get to his feet after taking a pretty violent hit, a pretty violent tackle down to the grass. So you might be without Nyheim Hines. You have to prepare for that scenario. He seemed to be pretty good over the weekend. Frank Reich said that even on Thursday in the locker room at halftime, he said, hey, I want to go back in. I'm ready to go. I'm fine. I've taken harder hits than that. And Coach Reich said that's when we have to protect players from themselves. We knew he was going to be out, so we had to just, find ways to figure it out beyond that. And the longer-term health of Nyheim Hines is a greater concern than his availability in that football game. So it sounds like that things are trending well for Nyheim, just based on conversations. I was able to talk with him as well. We'll see if he is out there today, but there are, of course, all of those steps, and they have refined a lot of that concussion protocol, as you guys are well aware. So we'll see what his outlook and his trajectory is for the remainder of the week. But yeah, you have to just find ways to do it. We talk about all the time. It's the old mantra. You hear it, next man up. And the linebackers have played very well without Shaquille Leonard. Zaire Franklin leads the league, is tied for the league lead in tackles to this point of this season. And you have Bobby Okereke, who has stepped up and made a huge piece to this defense. So far, this Colts defense has yet to allow a point in the fourth quarter or in overtime. So despite Shaq Leonard, you found ways to win. Now it's time for the offense. Despite the production that you may or may not get from Jonathan Taylor, you've got to find ways to win with other weapons.
A lot going on, but we know Sunday will be interesting nonetheless. Lara, thank you so much for joining us on Jags Drive Time. We will see you in Indy on Sunday.
Hey, look forward to having you guys here, making the trek up north.
Absolutely. When we come back on Jaguars Drive Time, some this or that on the Jaguars Digital Network.
Hey Jags fans, Brian Sexton for Dreamfinders Homes. In a complex housing market, do decisions on the biggest purchase of your life stress you out? At Dreamfinders Homes, they can build the home of your dreams in one of their many communities in Northeast Florida. With a mortgage company in-house, they're here to assist you throughout the entire process. Choose from their wide range of single-family homes or townhomes from the 300,000s. Dreamfinders Homes specializes in homes built to fit your lifestyle. Call 904-590-2545 or visit dreamfindershomes.com.
Your hometown gate now has more ways to save. Introducing My Gate Rewards, a new loyalty program with member-exclusive savings and fuel discounts. Earn points on in-store purchases, take advantage of special offers, and save on products you love. Score free coffee, fountain drinks, pizza, and soft serve with Gates frequent shopper clubs. Then use your points on savings at the pump. Download the My Gate Rewards app in the App Store today or ask a store associate for more information. Go from good to Gate.
At Five Star Credit Union, you inspire them to go the extra mile to meet your financial needs. That's why they offer Jaguars fans more banking options like better rates and no hidden fees. Their team is also dedicated to making the communities they serve stronger, volunteering their time and talents while donating millions to local nonprofits. Five Star Credit Union, ViStarCU.org. Go Jags!
Price.com is the easiest way to save money with comparison shopping, cashback, coupons, all in one. It's free. Try Price.com today.
This or that. This or that.
We are back, Jaguars Drive Time on a Wednesday, which means it's time for this or that. Looking forward to Sunday's game against the Colts. Brian, what do you got for us?
Well, this boils down to old school versus new school, right? I mean, in this very room, I used to hear Tom Coughlin talk about mix and balance, and he was talking about run versus pass ratio. I mean, he was, and look, he won with it, right? 2 Super Bowls, was a part of a lot of winning football. But that was then, and this is now. And so you've got Doug, who doesn't care at all about mix. I mean, he knows he needs to run to some degree to be able to set up play action and do things that he wants to do. Doug didn't care about balance. He didn't care about mix. So there's been a lot of hullabaloo this week about, why not more run? Why not more run? And I thought we had explained this. Doug doesn't care about that. It's old school versus new school. What you want? What do you want? Would you rather have balance, John?
Well, no, I don't care because, it depends on what you believe offensively. If you're an offense that runs the way Tom ran his offense, then balance is very important. But if you watch the Chiefs, if you watch teams, which Doug Peterson's offense is Andy Reid based, it's his own offense, but there's a lot of similarities. They don't care about it. The numbers don't necessarily add up because you're supposed to, in this offense, catch short passes and turn them into 4 or 5 yard runs to get yourself into 2nd and 5, 3rd and 2. Some of those little drops that people don't notice, that's part of, in Doug's offense, what people think of as the run game. So I don't think it's nearly as important as people think. And it's not going to happen. It's not how he's going to run the offense. And look, they're 13th in the NFL in total yards. They had 422 yards of offense the other day. If you average 422 yards of offense, you're in the top 5 in the league. They have to execute in the red zone. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe in the red zone on 2nd and 1, should you have run there? Maybe, but I think if you're Doug, you're not going to hang Trevor out publicly. But if you're Doug, you're saying on 2nd and 1 from the 7, we called a rollout. If he runs out of bounds, we have a first down. We have a new set of downs. It was not a bad call.
No.
So I guess fans can want the run, but they're not going to get it in the way that they're used to getting it because that's not what this offense is.
Well, and when Jack Del Rio was here, sorry to interrupt you, Slim.
You're okay.
There was so much conversation about 3 yards and a cloud of dust. And, it was good for a while when you had Maurice and Fred both running in their prime. But people wanted to see this passing offense. Finally, you have a quarterback, and he's paired with a coach that has this modern approach to it. That's the mind shift has to change because they're not going back.
Right.
The other people look at the stats and say, well, they're running so effectively. Why don't they do it more? If you ran more in this scheme,
the numbers wouldn't.
And you kept turning around and grinding when the other team knows it's coming, it's not going to be as effective. Doug's all about run in situations where you can be effective running. Do not run into brick walls where you're not going to be effective. It's not going to change. This is what the offense is.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And
hopefully they get
13th
better
in
at
the
executing
NFL.
it. Right.
They were like 30th last year with and they
No,
didn't score the other day. But I don't get the impression that the scoring, except for that one play, the run-pass balance wasn't affecting the scoring. It's not
well, I
the
think
same
people saw those long runs
thing.
from ETN and said, just keep giving him the ball.
Sure.
He's the hot hand. But
he was the hot hand because they ran in situations where that made sense.
Exactly.
Right. And I get why fans are saying, well, why are you doing something that isn't working and this is working, so let's do this that is working. But if this is the offense, and Coach Peterson was saying, especially with Trevor, to have that consistency of learning this offensive scheme, does no good changing it now. No. This is it. You got to learn it this way.
Yeah.
And it might take some time.
They're building it around his skill set. They'll get better at it. That's why he keeps saying he'll get better, they'll get better.
Right.
You get better when you just run the ball out of bounds for the first down, right. Trevor, right? I mean, we could all see that. So now he's got to take that and go.
Right.
Doug keeps saying in the press conferences when he's asked about this, the plays are there. That means that the plays are there and they're not being executed.
That's it.
At some point, they have to execute them.
Yep.
And there's no other way for him to say that. There's no other way to make that nicer and say, well, we're doing it right. They aren't doing it right. You can't say that. No.
Well,
I just said it, but you
and
can't
he's not saying, I mean, yeah. Right.
John, what do you got?
I have Christian Kirk or Zay Jones is the topic. What's more important, a big game for Christian Kirk, a big game for Zay Jones? Well, it's all important. You got to get the passing game going. They only had Zay had a bunch of targets. I think they had like 24 yards receiving together. That's got to get better. I think it's more important right now for this offense to get Christian Kirk going again. It's hard to figure out why that didn't happen the other day. Sometimes blips happen like that for receivers. He had one catch for 11 yards, I think it was, and 3 targets. I expect that to be dramatically different on Sunday. I think they will make an effort to get Christian Kirk the ball. As Christian Kirk goes, the offense goes, but he sure helps Trevor, and as Trevor goes, the offense goes.
So I'll say Zay Jones because it's clear the last 2 weeks that the Eagles and the Texans were taking Christian Kirk away, right? Doug said there were some plays for him, and maybe Trevor missed those. But I think it's important to get Zay Jones going because I go back to training camp, and they were all excited. Trevor in particular was really excited about all the different things that Zay could do. Mm-hmm. There's got to be somebody on the other side of Christian Kirk. There's got to be a go-to option, somebody that will allow Kirk to get free. So I think it's important that they get Zay Jones going so that they don't have to force the ball into Christian Kirk. Remember, He tried to force it on that interception in the third quarter in Philadelphia. And if he dumps it out to Agnew, they probably score a touchdown and take the lead. And there were opportunities, talked about forcing the ball down the field in his post-game news conference on Sunday. He's trying to force things. They're trying to force it to Christian Kirk. Take a deep breath. Get Jones to catch it, because he didn't the other day. Yeah. And then the Kirk opportunities will come. Yeah,
it's almost like the security blanket. Well, at times we talk about it as a good thing, can be a bad thing when you go to it too much. And we say that, okay, Trevor goes, Christian goes. I think if Zay goes, Christian goes. Zay has to be on the field to get the pressure off of Christian Kirk, because it's clear the recipe now is, they're throwing a Kirk, let's cover him. We saw that in Los Angeles especially. All right, my this or that is sweep or make it 5 in a row. We're talking about Sunday's game. This would be if the Jaguars win. This would be the first time they sweep the Colts since 2014. 17. Now, the Jaguars have lost the past 4 games to the Colts. So, are they going to sweep, or are they going to make it 5 losses in a row? We're just basically predicting Sunday's game. Yeah, sorry about it, but we're just calling it as it is. Yeah. What do you think, Brian?
Well, I'm going to go with the Jags winning in Indy. Here's why. Because I think they're a better team, right? That doesn't mean necessarily that they're going to execute better, but I think that their roster is better. I think that the defensive line, if they're healthy with Foye Oluokun, with Foley Fatukasi, I think that they've got an advantage there. The Colts are beat up. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to say that they find a way to pull it all back together after 2 bad games. I don't trust him right now based on last week. I don't want to do that, but I'm trying to be consistent. I don't like the Colts. I don't think they're that good right now. I think they're beat up, and I think that this team has a better roster. So I'll go with the Jaguars in a field goal, 27-24.
It's a close one. All right.
Last play of the game, field goal.
Wow.
What do I want to happen, or what I think will happen?
What do you think will happen?
It's I think the Colts are going to win. Because I think they seem to this year have had a knack for winning ugly, grinded-out games when they win. They beat the Chiefs that way. They beat the Broncos that way. They seem to be a team that's sort of hanging on and doing things that way. That's what I worry about with this game.
Yeah.
The Jaguars are so unpredictable right now. I hate the phrase, you don't know which team's going to show up. But that's sort of what it feels like. So I'm going to flip a coin and go Colts because at home, because it's so tough to beat a team a second time in the division and all those factors. But I don't feel great about the pick.
No, and you say you don't know what team's going to show up. That's the Jaguars right now. Are they the Jaguars in Los Angeles or the Jaguars last week? What team's going to show up? Because that's 2 totally different teams.
And to be fair, I mean, the flip side of the coin is they're a team that finds a way to hang on and win, yes, but if Russell Wilson just throws it to KJ Hamler instead of trying to force the ball in, I mean, he was wide open, they win. And the Chiefs gave them that game with the mistakes and the penalties and right? So I just
giving away a couple games.
That's
how it works.
The Colts are I totally get that, but I just don't think that we have seen good Colts teams, right? We have seen good Colt teams that have run over this team and then taken the lead and then let it go, right? And just held on for a win. I just don't think it's the same thing.
I guess my worry is right now the Jaguars look like a team that is doing a good job of keeping other teams in the game.
What? Yes.
So that's where the Colts have thrived this year.
100%. So that makes sense. We'll see.
I know.
Flip a coin.
Yeah. I think we'll just go with we'll see, and we'll just see what happens. And we're
well,
done
that's what happens when you lose a game like you do at home. No one's quite sure.
I know. We're a lot
what
of
are
questions.
They?
Yeah,
right? Are they the same old Jaguars? We don't think so, but they have to go prove it on Sunday.
And that is This or That, presented by Price.com. When we come back on Jaguars Drive Time, some closing thoughts.
Hey Jags fans, Brian Sexton for Dreamfinders Homes. In a complex housing market, do decisions on the biggest purchase of your life stress you out? At Dreamfinders Homes, they can build the home of your dreams in one of their many communities in Northeast Florida. With a mortgage company in-house, they're here to assist you throughout the entire process. Choose from their wide range of single-family homes or townhomes from the 300,000s. Dreamfinders Homes specializes in homes built to fit your lifestyle. Call 904-590-2545 or visit dreamfindershomes.com.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at TIAA Bank Field because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Bono's is currently expanding its brand with franchise opportunities throughout the Southeast and beyond. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit barbecue and owning your own business are a great combo. Go to bonosbarbq.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Jags fans, sign up for ESPN Plus to see Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars take on Russell Wilson and the Broncos across the pond at London's Wembley Stadium Sunday, October 30th. ESPN Plus gives you access to nonstop NFL action all season long with live games, originals, highlights, and more. After you sign up, be sure to log into your device with your ESPN account to stream on your TV and other devices. Visit espnplus.com/NFL for more details.
Jaguars Game Day Radio is brought to you by ViStar Credit Union. Do good, think better. One more segment to go here on Jaguars Drive Time on a Wednesday. A busy week as we get back on the practice field today, back in the locker room, seeing if the guys, I'm sure, will say, next one, we're moving on, we're looking at the Colts. Brian, what do you have going on this week?
I am going to visit with Richard Angulo, the tight ends coach, who, interesting enough, was a player on this team 10 years ago. He's part of that great 07 team. He and Tony Gilbert, the middle linebackers coach, were teammates, and now they're coaching together. So I'm going to go visit with Richard Angulo a little bit today.
Love it. John, what about you?
I will, at 4 o'clock today, I'll be on the Huddle Up podcast with Bucky Brooks.
That's Bucky Brooks
The
of
Bucky
NFL
Brooks.
Network.
Of the Bucky Brooks Jaguars Network on the Bucky Brooks show.
Brought to you by Bucky Brooks.
Yeah, and I am not sure the Ozone podcast guest this week. We're still working on that, but I predict we will have a guest, and it will not be Bucky Brooks.
No, we're over him. All right. Off the field this week is Travis Etienne, who's coming off a great game. If you're going to look at a positive from Sunday, it is Travis Etienne, so he will be off the field, and we'll be back on Jaguars Drive Time tomorrow morning, 9:30. We will see you here.